And what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Designated Players and MLS podcast. It's insane to even think about this, but the League's Cup is here. With the first matches taking off on Tuesday, July 29th, we're back, guys. We are so back. And so we have to come back with our annual. Are you good? My word.
I feel like I did something to my leg on the run this morning, and if I like move it a certain way, it really hurts. Sorry,
We're,
I jumped the gun. I wasn't supposed to introduce myself. I should have been in pain silently.
we're keeping all of this in, by the way. This is
I
fantastic.
was planning on it.
So we're back here. We're going to try and get to our annual tournament preview if Connor can survive that long. Every team, every group, every big time player, we're going to break it all down for you. I'm Andrew. That's Pain Boy over there. And here is your Eastern Conference
Pain
League Cup
boy.
2025 preview. What a nightmare of an intro.
That is a disaster of an intro. My goodness. Hopefully the tournament is not as bad as that intro was.
Oh man, I think the only thing that could be as worse of that intro is if you pick the wrong scarf. What are you rocking today?
I mean, you should probably know what my scarf is. Got a nice little Charlotte scarf with some
Nice.
cool designs on it. Were you worried this was NYC?
No, no, I was just transitioning. That's all.
Okay,
You know,
okay.
I'm a pro, so I like that. That looks a lot like the Nashville one. Yeah, I think
Well,
it's
I
pretty
mean,
neat.
besides the fact that it's blue.
Well, I just mean like with the design, right? You got a whole bunch of just randomness on there, which I think is really nice. I brought out one I haven't brought out in a while because this is a good a time as any because we're talking about most of them. Just a basic FC Cincinnati with the sword background. It's pretty neat.
Yeah,
All right.
not as good as the Wiener Dog ones, but
No, I figure I bring that out all the time though, so I might as well switch it up a bit, you know.
all right, fair enough.
Are you good? Can we continue without you dying?
No promises. I may or may not tear my ACL during this recording.
That is peak male athleticism, by the way. Tearing your ACL sitting in a chair. That's what we're talking about here, people.
I know. I'm getting older now. It's
You're
starting to
telling
the
me.
wear and tear is catching up.
You're telling me. But all right, as much as we want to talk about our old, frail, muscular systems, let's talk a little bit about this tournament as a whole. Because this year features a new format and it instantly highlights the effort by the front offices of MLS and Liga MX to improve the product year over year. We talked about this at the end of last one about what we can improve and things we want to see, and the FO really on both sides took it to heart and improved some aspects of it. Not all of them, but we're going to talk about them. First and most importantly, we're not taking a giant month off from our leagues for this tournament. It's going to be played in phases. So this first phase is going to be a group stage, right? You're going to have a group of six, and you're going to play the three teams from the other league in that group, or they call it a set, but whatever, to determine this final table. Then the top four teams performing from each league. So it doesn't matter what group you're in, it then goes to your league and says the top four from each league are going to advance to an 8 team knockout tournament to crown the winner. It gives a lot of UEFA Champions League vibe where you're not playing everybody, but they're still going to figure out how you make it based off of your coefficients and whatever. That's the kind of the vibe I'm feeling. Thoughts on how they change that?
I mean, I'm a fan. I like it. I mean, I think it would have been so easy for them after the success of the first Leagues Cup to just be like, all right, this was so good, we're never changing it again. But I mean, I think some credit is due to the fact that they just didn't get comfortable with it, despite the fact that it did go so well at the start. And they're trying to actively make changes for things that didn't go super well in the first or the second rendition of this. And I mean, one of those is the phasing, like you had said. I mean, I think that's a good touch to not just take this whole month off, especially if you're like a team. Well, for one, there's teams that didn't make it, so they would just legit have a full month of just doing nothing except practices, which I think would be tough. I mean, they could probably get friendlies and stuff in there, but even if you were participating, you got knocked out in the group stage, you're again going to be off for weeks on end without game time. So in that case, it might be harder for you to kind of schedule in last minute friendlies to kind of keep the team active, keep them, playing at their peak level where they are mid-season for Major League Soccer. I also like the aspect of just in the phase one straight MLS versus League MX. I think that part of it is pretty cool too. Like we get enough of teams playing one another in the league. It's nice to kind of like if we're gonna do this mix between two leagues, I want to see the two leagues actually play each other and stop watching a bunch of games of different MLS sides playing against each other when we could get that plenty of times across the regular season. So I'm sure there's going to be a, a few things that are still not going to be great with this format, and I think we'll highlight some of them as we go through. But there are definitely, I'd say, a few changes in there that seem pretty exciting.
Connor hurt himself, but he still is the same old person. I asked him, hey, what do you think about phase one and phase two? And he went and answered every single change that they made because why would he wait and have a
Well, yeah,
conversation if he
well,
could
I'm
just
just
run
so
his mouth?
excited. Why would I wait?
If he could just run his mouth and hear himself talk, why would he do anything
Gotta
else,
just
right?
just share the script ahead of time so that and I'll know what not to do.
Oh man, usually what you shouldn't do is talk. That's usually the answer there, but here we are.
That's
Um,
true.
like Connor was alluding to, we have cut teams down. There are teams that aren't playing here, right? So instead of this massive 48 team tournament, it's been whittled down to 36 teams, so 18 from each league. Liga MX only has 18 teams. MLS took their top 18 teams, done via qualification from the last year's table. And of course, the biggest change that we see is instead of having 12 groups of three, we have now six groups of six, which is a little bit better. And we're going to talk about kind of the way that the six or not the six, the way that the winners of those six are chosen, and if that's the right way to go about it. But it does make it better than having a three-team group where you can win one game, tie two games, or tie and lose in a penalty kick shootout and still move on and have all these different ways to get by, which is a nightmare. This is a little bit more straightforward, and I think we're all going to enjoy that a little bit better. And there's a third game involved too, so you're getting a true balance instead of having one lucky result. So again, just to break down how these six were made, it's three MLS and three Liga MX in both. And as Connor was once again alluding to, every team from one league is going to play, or one team from one league is going to play every team from the other. So, for example, if you're an MLS team, you're going to play the other three Liga MX teams. If you're a Liga MX side, you're going to play the other three MLS sides to get your placement. For lack of a better term, that ensures it is truly a MLS versus Liga MX showdown, which is what we've been wanting to see. To create the groups, the table was split into thirds. So the 18 teams that were there were split into thirds, into tier one, tier two, and tier three. Those were then basically thrown into a pot and said, okay, one from tier one MLS, one from tier one League MX, you're in. One from tier two, you're in. One from tier three, one from tier three, you're in. That's how you made your 16 group, and that's how it was made. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. The only other minor change that I saw and that Connor didn't touch on because obviously he didn't do enough research into it, bum. League MX hosting privileges has increased to six teams instead of four from 2024. So six of the 18 League MX teams have hosting rights, so they don't have to travel, which is to some level, right? Depending on if it's just group stage or round of 16, semifinals, whatever. So as we already asked kind of what your thoughts on these changes were. You shared them. I've shared my ideas basically, but I'd like to first ask the MLS front office, who is obviously listening to our show, where our check is, because these are basically all of our ideas, and they stole half of them. So the fact that we haven't been paid for our intellectual property is, I'm probably gonna have to take them to court, but whatever. No, I'm interested in this. I think, like I said, the League MX versus MLS intention is exciting because of all the games last year that I didn't tune into, they were usually League MX versus League MX or MLS versus MLS. I didn't quite care to see Sporting KC take on Red Bull because it didn't matter, right? The fact they've got it all the way up until the semifinals is great. I like that they've cut the number of teams down. That is going to help increase the speed of the tournament and stop with the long drawn out things for no reason. And the reason why I asked this, and I'll get your thoughts on these comments in a second here, was we put a poll out on Twitter to gauge our audience and what their thoughts were. I basically asked, are you hyped for Leagues Cup? Are you only interested in it for the new format, or do you not care at all? And out of 20 votes, which is the most we've ever had on a poll, which is great for us, keep doing that. Go follow us, by the way, if you are listening and you don't already. 10 people of those 20 said that they didn't care at all. And 10 people either were interested or super hyped. And actually, that was split down the middle too, 5 and 5. So it is really nice because it's usually Twitter only emphasizes the negative, right? All the people who don't want to be in there will have it pushed and thrown down your throat. But I did want to shout out somebody who we've been interacting with since season 1 on this app. His name is Silver Ray. He's a Union supporter. And I asked what his thoughts were, and he said that he always liked the Liga MX versus MLS format, but the season should be prioritized over the tournament. So he's upset that they had to crunch 9 games into the month of May to make room for this tournament when they could have balanced it out. Your thoughts on that?
That is a bit valid. I mean, I think the more you group games together, the more you're going to see injuries and rotations, and then it's just less time as a fan to go to the stadium to see your favorite players play because, potentially they have to sit out because they've already played like 3 games this week or 2 games this week, and it's just too much to kind of squeeze it all in there. I mean, I do feel like as much as it would be ideal to be able to space everything out well, I do feel like it is really hard to like manage to put everything together. Champions League, the regular season, Leagues Cup, the US Open Cup, like squeezing everything in together and making it work where there's not going to be like congestion in games is probably near impossible. But then it becomes an argument of like, all right, well then should one of these competitions not exist? And I think obviously regular season and Champions League will be exempt from that. And that's where you come right back to this whole debate of Leagues Cup versus US Open Cup. And yes, as Andrew is pointing out, it is full circle. But yeah, I mean, I think it's a valid concern. I just genuinely don't know what the alternative solution would be other than really loosening the roster rules and letting teams expand and get much more depth in their teams so that they can rotate and participate in all of these tournaments in congested schedules.
Yeah, well, and what he had mentioned was that the way that he would fix it is tournament games only get played midweek, Wednesdays, and all the season games are weekend games. That way you have, a cup to prioritize and a league to prioritize and whatever. And the only thing I thought about when he said that was, yeah, that's great. But because Liga MX wants to play other games in US, they're not doing cross country travel every 3 days to play a League Cup match and a league match, League's Cup match, league match. That that logistic doesn't work out. And as great as it is on paper, right? We love being able to sit there and say, yeah, this is the way it should work because look at how much easier it is and nicer and cleaner. Logistically, that won't play out. So I think this is a good compromise, right? You play them for a week, you let them go back, you do your regular league stuff, and then you come back 2 weeks later if you make it and you finish it out. But again, the big like you pointed out, the big thing about not having this massive break is the fact that if you are one of the was it 8 out of 36? So if you're one of the 28 teams that don't make it, right back to league, right? You're not sitting there for a month waiting for things to happen. So that's a huge step and a good compromise in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, well then, why don't we just dive in the groups then, shall we?
Let's dive.
All right, so basically, we are going to give you guys players to watch from each team, a little bit about how they're doing in the league right now, coaching and things like that. And then at the very end, we're going to give our group standing predictions, so kind of 1 through 6. We won't. I don't think we're going to do the 4 teams that move on from each group because we are only doing Eastern groups today, and then on Wednesday we'll do the Western groups. But yeah, we'll give you our group standings for sure. So starting in Eastern 1. So this is the first group, and Tier 1 will have Toluca and Columbus, or those are the 2 Tier 1 teams. Tier 2 were Lyon and New York City FC, and Tier 3 were CF Montreal and Puebla, which at quick first glance kind of fits. You're gonna see some tier designations this time around that don't quite line up with how do I say the performance of the team in past. So let's start with Toluca then. So the Liga MX Tier 1 team, they're led by 55-year-old Argentine Antonio Mohamed and currently sit atop of the Apertura table, which is 2 wins from 2 matches, 7 goals scored, 3 against. There's not a lot to take from that. But they also topped the Clausura last season with 11 wins and only 2 losses. They beat out Club America by a single game. They are one of the best teams in Mexico right now, hands down. And they have they're going to be a handful for anybody that come up against. But I do want to add this. This is something we haven't done in the last two times we've done this because we always talk about how much crossover MLS and Liga MX are. I want to highlight some of the former MLS guys on every Liga MX roster this year. And I thought I was going to go through and be like, oh, there's like 15 teams that don't have anything. I think there are two teams that have no connection whatsoever. So in Toluca, right now you're going to see a familiar face. His name is Hector Herrera from formerly of Houston. But this is also the current home of Frankie Amaya, who is on loan with LAFC. So Connor, can you tell me a little bit about kind of who the where these games are getting played and maybe some big signings that this team has made that we need to be on the lookout for?
Sure. So they're going to be bouncing around a little bit. Their first game is going to be played in Columbus at Lower.com Field. Then they're going to go over to Sports Illustrated Stadium, the home of the New York Red Bulls, obviously.
But the Red Bulls aren't in this
And
group.
that's where they're playing.
Oh man, I wonder why. Homeless, homeless.
Speaking of the homeless, take me out to the ball game because Toluca is finishing up in Yankee Stadium. So yes, there's not a huge commute between Harrison and Yankee Stadium, but they are not going to be playing in the same stadium twice during the group stage. I'm sure that's going to be a topic of discussion for people at some point. But some of their big signings, as Andrew mentioned, this is one of the bigger teams in Liga MX. And so there have been some big names kind of in and around the team. One thing I will say about Liga MX that made this part very difficult to do research for is so many teams just fully reset their team like every transfer window.
Yeah.
It's absurd. And so I had to do a lot of checking to make sure guys are still on the team and playing because obviously it shouldn't be a big signing if they're already gone. One of them, Andrew mentioned before, Hector Herrera from Houston Dynamo coming over. Tons of experience over in Europe. He is getting up there in age a bit, but we know what he can do. We saw what he could do with Houston. And then Pau Lopez is the other one I went for. He is a goalkeeper coming over from Marseille. I think he has a shot to get in there and take that number one spot. I don't believe he's played yet, so I don't know. I could be wrong on if he's actually going to participate in the Leagues Cup, but it was a recent transfer for them, so I wanted to shout that one out. Obviously, coming over from a pretty big team over in France.
Yeah, yeah. And that's one of the things that we were talking about off air that we're gonna, highlight here is the level at which Liga MX can pull talent from versus the ones that MLS can pull talent from is very, very vast and different. So we'll have that conversation as it comes along. Give me a player to watch. Give me somebody that you're keeping your eye on for this team.
So I've gone for Alexis Vega.
Nice.
I he has very good underlying numbers on FBref, and he had an absolute monster year for them last year. 12 goals, 11 assists, 23 total goal contributions for them in 31 starts as they finished, I believe, second, and already has an assist so far this year in 100 minutes. He was a guy that I remember being touted as like an up and coming star for the Mexico national team. And I don't know if he's quite hit the peak potential that he once had, but I mean, if you continue to have seasons like you had last year, I think you're getting closer and closer. So I think he could be a massive game changer for them, considering he's coming into like really good form.
Yeah, yeah. I had two of them here. I had Vega, and then I had his partner on the other side, Helino, I think is how you pronounce that. Right now, and again, take it with a grain of salt. There's only two games in there, but he's leading the goal scoring right now for Toluca. And the reason I put them together is because it's very clear that they are the dangerous duo on the outside of this team's shape. They're going to cause a lot of problems for a lot of different people, whoever they come up against, right? And I highlight this as we watched Max Arfston, for example, in Columbus try and defend. If they're playing to the point where he is going to be pinned back, they are in for a tough day. And I do believe that's something that they can do because of their quality and the way that they play. And then they're going to go and try and set up things for their man in the middle, the Portuguese striker Paulinho, who also is getting on the end of these services and putting crosses away and scoring goals. So that whole attack is going to be a nightmare for all these defenses to deal with. There are lots of teams that they're going to play this group, and for poor CF Montreal, I just hope they keep it respectable. Poor guys.
Listen, let's not throw Montreal under the bus yet. Let's let them play and see how it goes.
All right, I won't throw them under the bus until we get to them to talk about. Then I'll throw them under the bus
Okay,
because
sure, that's fair enough.
oh man. Well, let's move on then. Let's head over to Columbus and talk about the highest ranked MLS team from this group. The Crew, they're led by Wilfred Nancy. We know this. They are running hot in the Eastern Conference, currently sitting fourth. They have 11 wins from 23 games, and they have played the Nancy ball style that we all know and love. However, in recent weeks, we have seen them exposed via the press, a la Nashville beating them 3-0 just by pressing the heck out of them. But it is very early in the Liga MX Apertura season, so are we going to see any team that has any bit of fitness try this method and press them? I don't know. It's something to keep an eye on for sure. Talk to me about transfers. Talk to me about the where they're going to be playing games. I'm assuming they've got a couple more home games than Toluca does.
Well, they have all of the home games versus Toluca. Columbus will be playing every phase one game in Columbus. I think that will be a huge advantage for them. In terms of big signings, I think they've made a couple of good ones in terms of like just filling out the depth, but I think the biggest name there is Daniel Gazdag coming over from Philly. Yeah, I'll save it on that because I may or may not have a little bit more to talk about him
Ooh,
later.
well, move, go, spread your wings and fly. Go ahead, keep going. Tell me more.
All right, well, Daniel Gazdag was also my player to watch in this one. Obviously we know the quality of player that he is. He was a phenomenal player over in Philadelphia. And I think since the move just really hasn't found his footing yet with Columbus. He's on 1 assist for the season, 0 goals. Very unlike him. He's usually a dominant goal scorer, even if it is mainly from the penalty spot. And yeah, so I'm he's my player to watch because maybe this is an opportunity for him to kind of reset, not look at it from a whole regular season phase and just say, okay, this is a brand new tournament, an opportunity for me to start to like put my stamp on this team. And maybe it gives him this boost if he does have a good run here to carry him on the rest of the season.
I like it. I've got a couple of players like that in my breakdown here, but not here. This one I'm watching USMNT left back Max Arfston. That's my player to watch because of all the talent in the team. He's been very, very sneaky good. I think we all know what he does when he goes forward and a part of it, but he's got the highest average rating on WhoScored.com for all of Columbus players, which baffles me because you don't see him as like the main face of the team. And again, take it for what you will. It's a grading website. It's obviously not exact, but 4 goals and 3 assists in 18 appearances because he was gone at the Gold Cup from an inverted left back spot is pretty crazy. Columbus obviously going to be on the ball early, often, and all the time. And they're going to attempt to break down their opponent with possession and clever off the ball movement, which is one of Arfston's strengths. He knows how to get into the right areas and attack well. So this is going to be it's going to be an interesting approach for them. And I'm curious to see how they try and solve some of the problems here because they've got a couple tough Liga MX groups in there, clubs in there. Speaking of those relatively tough Liga MX sides, Club Leon, after watching their Club World Cup bonus check disappear before their eyes at the very hands of an MLS side themselves, they are set to take on a relatively tough first group in League's Cup. They are led by another 55-year-old Argentine, this time in Eduard Berizzo, and they finished sixth place in the Clausura last season, and they've only played one match this year at the time of recording, and it was a 1-0 loss to San Luis. So there are a couple former MLSers on this team, including Emmanuel Rigoni, but the face of this side is somebody you're probably going to talk about. It's Colombian playmaker James Rodriguez. Are we kidding? How did we let this guy slip through our hands? If we're going to bring in players that are, wrong side of 30, this is the guy we needed. Tell me more about him.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you stealing my whole flow here, but I'll tell you first a little bit about where they're going to be playing.
Oh, so you're
Um,
not you're not flexible with the flow of the episode. I get it.
nope,
You're
nope.
not a professional
I'm
like me.
rigid. I'm rigid. I'm like an uncooked pasta. Um, so
Jesus.
what?
That's just such a
It wasn't.
continue.
You make it sound like I
Continue.
said something inappropriate. I just said
No,
it's an
no, it's
uncooked
just like
pasta.
that's when you talk about rigid, I'm thinking like a plank of wood, not pasta.
I'm hungry. What can I say? I don't know what to tell you.
On you
Um,
go.
Leon is going to be starting off their journey here, and I call it a journey because they are bouncing around at Stadio Saputo in Montreal. Then they are bouncing over to Sports Illustrated Stadium, home of the New York Red Bulls. And then finally, last but not least, they will be rounding out their trip at Lower.com Field in Columbus. So they are going to be, yes, relatively in the northeast corner, but they are bouncing around. They don't really have any consistent stadium to be playing at. And as Andrew spoiled, um, one of their big signings is James Rodriguez, coming over from Rayo Vallecano. I believe he did play a good amount of time with them last season. Obviously, comes into this season. And then one other name I wanted to mention as another kind of bigger signing for them is Rodrigo Echeverria, coming over from Huracan down in Argentina.
Yeah, well, I'm just going to build off of you because Rodrigo Echeverria is my player to watch. He actually came over last half season, so he's been there a little bit, and I know that's still technically the full season. So for the American or the MLS listeners who kind of are lost here, just roll with us, please. It's not the same yet, I guess. I think he's going to have to control the midfield really, really well against teams like Toluca and Columbus, who really like to be on the ball, who really like to control the game. He's going to have to be a big, big part of that Leon side to control it if they want a chance to go through. Because as we were mentioning, the weird thing about this setup is you're going to have a lot of good teams miss out because you get 4 out of 18 move on. So if you drop points anywhere, there's a good chance you're not moving on, which is insane to think about. And we'll probably end up rounding back at the end of the tournament to talk about how we can improve it. And I bet you that's going to be one of our topics. Spoilers.
Well, I will take the other half of this. I've gone for James Rodriguez. Obviously, we know the quality of player that he used to be. However, if I'm being frank here, I wish I had a name tag. I would say my name is Frank. He's fallen off a bit. I think he has found maybe a little bit of form with Leon from last season, but very interested to see what kind of role he plays. In the first match, he only played 29 minutes. He did not start. Interested to see what his game time is going to look like for this tournament and what kind of impact he has. I mean, obviously, if he can roll back the years, he is a incredibly talented player that would do a lot of damage to a lot of teams in this tournament. However, his form is been anything but that in the last few years, if he's been getting any game time at all, which outside of last year, he really hasn't been. So very interested to see what kind of impact he has, or if he has like any. Maybe he barely plays at all.
I mean, listen, he's going to be in the pocket of Darlington Nagby for 90 minutes, and then he's going to go over to New York City. He's going to be the pocket of Johnny Shore, and then he's going to go to Montreal and score 7. So
Wow, you're on a Montreal tirade today.
I'll get into it when we get there. But why don't we go to New York City FC here? Because we got to get out to the ball game. It's where you should be, but we're not going to start with that. Um, we're going to chat NYCFC here because they had a rough start to the season. Trying to figure out players that have left with a new head coach. But at the current moment of recording, they're sitting 7th in the Eastern Conference, picking up 3 wins in their last 5. They sit on 34 points from 10 wins as we enter the last stretch of games before the playoffs kick in. First-year manager Pascal Janssen has not yet returned the team to the glory that they were at a few years ago, being 4th place and sneaking through COVID playoffs. But he does have them 11th overall in the Shield standings and firmly in the playoff spots at the moment. Talk to me about location. Talk to me about signings.
All right, so NYCFC, 3 home games for them. They're going to be starting off in Sports Illustrated Stadium, obviously their home stadium, followed up by another game at Sports Illustrated Stadium. Again, another home game for them. And last but not least, as we mentioned with Toluca, we're taking them to the ball game at Yankee Stadium to round things off. Wouldn't have it any other way, to be honest with you. NYC has been, I mean, you can correct me if I'm missing anything. I don't believe I am relatively quiet in the transfer window. Not a lot going on from them. I've gone for, I don't even know if you can classify this as a big signing considering he has not played a lot for them so far, but I've gone for Aiden O'Neill coming over from Belgium. Kind of like one of 3 options here, and feels like he has maybe the potential to have the most impact on this team. So selection by elimination.
Yeah, no, he's actually been good for the again not their long term, but he's been good when he's played for them. So I'll give you that there that that's a good pick there. But is he your player to watch? Talk to me.
He is not. My player to watch is Alonso Martinez.
Nice.
He has been, I mean, listen, there might be NYC fans that are going to disagree with me, but I think he's been a little bit underwhelming so far this year. I mean, I think 9 goals through 19 appearances so far. It's solid. It's certainly not bad. I am in no way, shape, or form saying it's bad. However, when you look at the fact that he has an XG of nearly 14 and he has 9 goals scored, feels like there's just a lot being left on the table here. And I'm really curious to see if, similar to a situation with Gazdag, maybe this is a tournament that kind of wakes him up and he rediscovers the form where he was super electric last year. So maybe this is an opportunity for him to kind of like not necessarily hit the reset button. He's not exactly having as poor of a season as Gazdag is, but maybe for him to kind of like find that form again because it seems like he's getting himself in the right spaces. He's just not necessarily finishing them.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I mean, you saw him. He did score the winner against, I believe he scored the winner against Orlando, but just minutes before that, he had a sitter on the doorstep and he hit the post. It's like last year's Alonso Martinez, lights out, right? Don't have to
Yeah,
worry about it. And I believe that was him, by the way. I can't remember off the top of my head. We've been doing a lot of prep for this, so I might be wrong. If I am wrong, somebody correct me, tell me I'm wrong, but I think it was him.
I would
Um,
love to tell you you're wrong.
yeah, but you can't because to you, I'm never wrong because you don't have any proof to tell me I'm wrong because that would involve you watching soccer, and we know that that's not your thing. I hinted at my player to watch before. It is young center mid Johnny Shore. He's just 18 years old. He's broken into the first team, and he's been an integral part in their side, making 21 appearances, accounting for 60% of the total minutes possible. He plays like a kid that is hungry to make his mark, and it shows. He does the dirty work between the lines. He allows somebody like Maxi Morales to play the creator role, but when he gets in the game, whether he's starting or as a sub, the level doesn't drop, and you can't tell he's an 18-year-old player. It is really, really impressive, and why I want to see him, why I'm keeping an eye on him, because how many players have made moves from MLS to Liga MX just from showing out in this tournament, right? I'm sure there's a handful of them that at least got put on a radar, right? My guess is Matty Bogusz probably was on a radar after LAFC's performances, not only in Champions League, but also in Leagues Cup. I would really like to see what happens to his stock if he has a crazy tournament here and just balls out and, is a top 10 center mid in this tournament. I'd love to see if again, Liga MX clubs will always come calling. But I wonder if that'll put him on the map for somebody like Man City to be like, oh, yeah, we'll take you and loan you out to, you were on our seventh team. We'll loan you out to our fifth team and see if you can climb the ladder that way. Straight to Japan for
It,
you, sir.
that would be kind of cool.
Yeah, but wouldn't it?
Um, I guess it depends on if he's gonna play or not. He hasn't played a ton lately. He's been only getting little appearances, it seems like.
Yeah, yeah. Like I said, when Aiden O'Neill came in, he kind of rotated out, and I think with Keaton Parks is probably on his way back. He was hurt for a while too. But my point is that if he does enough to earn those minutes, and I think Keaton Park might still be hurt, which is why I think I am leaning towards this. If he does enough to earn those minutes, and again, you got to remember too, these games, even though we are not taking a full month off, these games are quick succession. They're only a couple days apart, so you're going to need rotation. You're going to need people to step up and do their, do the work. I would want to see him come in and be one of those players.
Yeah, fair enough.
All right.
And yes, you're correct. Keaton is still hurt, I
Yeah,
believe.
I know there was rumors about him maybe coming back, maybe not coming back, and I hadn't kept up with it, but that's my guess is he's still out. Somebody had made a mistake and allowed some MLS Next Pro sides in, and there are like three or four of them that are in this third tier of teams, and one of them is here. It's CF Montreal. I don't know who let them in, but we probably need to talk about them because that's cruel and unusual punishment. After firing their coach just 5 games into the season, replacing him with interim manager and former player Marco Donadell, their results have drastically remained the same. They are firmly in the wooden spoon race, sitting dead last in the East on 15 points, just 3 wins. This has been what they call a season to forget for MLS, for Montreal fans, and for Joey Saputo, this is just a season. They have a staggering minus 23 goal differential on 43 goals against, nearly the worst in the league in that final category. And all the while, their owner is shipping anybody worth a damn out the door for pennies on the dollar. And now they have to go in and play against Toluca and Club Leon. it's bothering me because we've talked about this, and we're not going to go down this path. But George Campbell just made a transfer out. They're talking about shipping out Jonathan Sirois, their goalkeeper, and the only thing they do is bring in Bologna players on loan. And it's frustrating because now we're going into these things, and they might get dog walked. And we're gonna hear the whole, oh yeah, like the bottom of your league isn't as good as the bottom of our league, blah 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 blah. It's like I'm not gonna rehash it, but I don't like Joey Saputo. I know a lot of people don't like Joey Saputo, and the fact that we're going into like I said, I don't think they're going to the playoffs. I think that's pretty clear. But the fact that you're going into a tournament where you're going to be able to showcase yourself and win some money if you get out of the group or whatever, and you're just like, yep, sell anybody we want, we'll rebuild next year, bothers me.
Oh yeah, absolutely. No, I understand that. I mean, they're finally their lack of spending and lack of ambition is finally catching up to them, and it's unfortunately it's not deserved to the fans, but it's definitely deserved to this ownership group.
Hmm. Yeah, well, and like I said, of all these people, we're out here talking like, oh, maybe the Club World Cup will make us increase spending, and maybe the Leagues Cup that we keep winning the Leagues Cup, but one day we won't. Maybe that'll be a wake up call. And then it's just Robert Kraft and Joey Saputo being like, no, 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 not doing that. Sorry, money, money, money.
Gotta have your
I hate
money.
it. Yeah, I hate it. I hate it. But talk to me about where they're playing and talk to me about some if they've made a signing.
Yeah, so Montreal, they are going to be playing at Stade Saputo in Montreal for their first game. Then they're swinging over. A lot of games going on at Sports Illustrated Stadium, but they will be at Sports Illustrated Stadium for game two. And then they're back in Montreal for game three. A couple of signings. I've written down here Jalen Neal. Obviously, we know he has some big potential from his time in LA. And then the other one I put, not necessarily because of his impact on the field, but considering he is taking up a designated player spot, and that is very rare for Montreal, I've gone for Giacomo Vrioni coming over from New England.
Yes, if I remember correctly, I think Sports Illustrated Stadium is a hub for one of the teams. If not, if it's who is it? Where are we?
I think it's
Toluca.
Toluca, maybe.
Yeah, I think it's Toluca's hub, I think. Now, weirdly enough, they haven't really mentioned any of it, which I think is kind of weird. I'm gonna see if I can find it. Yeah, don't see it. They didn't mention it, which somebody can correct us if we're wrong, or can let us know if they find it because I don't see it. But we move. Talk to me about a player to watch because there aren't many.
I've gone for Prince Owusu. I mean, I would make the argument that he's one of, if not like the only player that's worth watching on this team. On a very poor Montreal side, he still has 10 goals so far this year.
Hmm.
Um, and I would imagine that's with limited service. So, he's up against a designated player, someone who obviously had some pedigree coming into the league, and he has absolutely made that striker spot his own. Yeah, I don't necessarily think this is going to be a tournament where he just like blows up and continues his run for the rest of the season, but I think he's like arguably the only person that might be worth watching on this team.
Yeah, when I thought about players to watch, I thought about any other attacker on any other team that they play against, because that's the guy you want to watch. But if I had to pick one from this team, especially, so the way I usually handle this is if the team has a very, very low likelihood of moving on, I'm actually hoping that they utilize this tournament as a stepping stone for some of their younger players, right? See what they can do at top levels. And I think Olger Escobar could be one of those players that's set for a breakout. Highly touted addition early in the year. But he only started making a couple appearances for Montreal this month. He had a really good Gold Cup showing for Guatemala, including a goal against the men's national team in the semifinals. I don't know if you remember that, but that was him who scored that goal. He helped Guatemala get all the way to the Gold Cup semis. He took out Jesse Marsh's Canada, ha ha ha, on the way up there. And I think that they're going to just let him fly this tournament. I think they know they're not going to the playoffs, so this might be the lone bright spot for them. Let him fly, see what they can do. And my guess is if anybody thinks, oh, that guy's probably good, they'll sell him for $45 in a bag of balls. So, uh, you know, get his value up now, and we'll see you never, right?
Yeah, I mean to say the least.
Montreal is it a Canadian thing? Like Vancouver gets good and they're like, "Oh yeah, we're points away from the Shield. Yeah, take all of our best players." Now Montreal's like, "We're points away from the Wooden Spoon. Yeah, take all of our players." Like it's got to be a Canadian thing, right?
I don't know. Either that or I mean Toronto's their only hope, honestly.
Help me, Toronto. You're my only hope.
Yeah, they are,
Uh,
and that's tough too because they haven't exactly been much of a hope the last few seasons.
anyways, let's hit on Puebla from Liga MX. Another Argentine leading this group, this time 50-year-old Pablo Guede. They aren't doing so hot right now. They're currently 0-2 on the year in the Apertura, 5 goals against, and they finished 17th out of 18 last season with just 2 wins in 17 games, finishing on 9 points. That is a showing that um, Southampton would have been proud of. It's been a rough go of it for this side that is home to former MLSer Lucas Cavallini, and they will hope to turn that around with a good Leagues Cup showing. Talk to me about location. Talk to me about signings.
Well, as you can imagine, Puebla has not earned its right to have a home field advantage here. So they again are going to be bouncing around. First stop is at Sports Illustrated Stadium. Shocker, hearing a lot of that. Next, they're going to Lower.com Field in Columbus, and they are rounding off their trip at Stade Saputo in Montreal. Big signings, really not a lot of them. I have just for the sake of having somebody for every team, I've gone for Juan Fedorko from Independiente.
I bet you definitely pronounced that correct too. There's definitely
Oh,
no way you
definitely.
butchered
It's
that
probably
one.
not like Fedor show or something like that, but I kind of like Fedorko better.
I'd say that was the most American pronunciation you could give. 10 out of 10. 10 out of 10. I'm guessing Fedorko is your player to watch because you know his name so well.
Actually, he is not. I have gone
Whoa.
for, I know, I've gone for Julio Gonzalez. He is their
Nice.
34-year-old goalkeeper. The
Goalkeeper
reason I've
love,
gone for him,
baby.
huh?
Goalkeeper love. We love it.
Goalkeeper love. The reason I've gone for him, if you look at who has made starts for this team this season so far, I mean, obviously very early days, but this is an extremely young team.
Hmm.
Literally, it is Julio Gonzalez at 34 years old, and then the next youngest to have made a start this season is 26. It is a very young team. I think he's going to have to do a lot of leadership for this team. Very curious to see what kind of impact he has for them in terms of on-field leadership. I think it's going to be, and not to mention too, I mean, like you talked about it, this is not a good team. He's probably going to be very busy in goal as well. So kind of an impact on the field in terms of play and as well as, what kind of role does he play for a lot of these young guys in terms of leadership.
Yeah, yeah, and I like that. First of all, always love goalkeeper love. The very good point. I didn't recognize when I went to look at the information, it did look like they had just a ton of people starting, but I didn't recognize that they were all the young kids. They're taking the Red Bull approach of of youth academy into profit. But now we don't need
Yeah.
to do that because we have so many games at Sports Illustrated Stadium. We're just taking in the field rent money and we're going to put it straight to Timo Werner, and then we're going to win MLS Cup.
Something like that.
Oh man, we're very silly today. This is a silly episode. I like it.
Just
Um,
two silly guys.
yeah, we're just goofing around. Uh, I mentioned before with the teams that aren't gonna move on or are very unlikely to move on. I look at the young players to shine, and one that caught my eye was 19-year-old center back Jose Pachuca, not Jose Puebla, Jose Pachuca, but doesn't play for Pachuca, plays for Puebla. He had just over 1,000 minutes last year as an 18-year-old out of a possible 1,500. Remember, right? This is the half season. And according to Transfer Market, which somebody can tell me if I'm wrong here, he's already the captain of the team at 19 years old, which is massive, right? So it looks like this guy could be a really big talent for the future, and I'm interested to seeing in some performances out of him in this tournament against a very interesting group of attackers, right? You've got the Columbus group, you got the NYC group, you have the Leon and the Tolucas, like those all have different ways that they're going to attack, and it'll be interesting to see how he handles that. And then you got Montreal, but he won't have to do much against Montreal. I just want to put it out there, by the way, before we move on to predictions. Montreal, I'm expecting payment when you guys top the group because the amount of podcast jinx I'm putting on this team, you know damn well they're gonna finish. They're gonna move on. They're gonna win the thing because I just keep slandering them. So when they win Leagues Cup, I want 0.5% of the Leagues Cup winning sent this way. That's all I want. That's all I ask. Is that too much?
No, you should drop your address too while you're here, just in case
Yeah,
they're
yeah.
listening.
Listen, go to please. Well, evidently I can't do that. I tried to order sneakers and I can't do, they got delivered to the wrong house and I can't find them.
You can't do anything right. Shocker.
I can't. But what I can do is make some group predictions. So, Connor, why don't you give me your 6-1? Give me 6-1.
Well, okay, so some of this depends on what the tiebreakers are.
Correct.
Um, so I am not sure exactly who's going to end up top here, but I've got Columbus and Toluca on 7 points here. I've got Leon in third on four. Shockingly enough, I have Montreal next on
No,
three
you
points.
don't. That's a
I
lie.
do. I
That's
do.
a lie. You
You
what do
don't
you
think they
think?
could beat Puebla?
No.
I at home. You don't think they could beat Puebla? You just talked about they had 9 points and 2 wins. As bad as
Yeah.
Montreal is, I still think they could beat them at
Yeah.
home.
And Montreal's a next pro side. We're not doing this.
I've got Montreal in fourth on 3 points. Listen, you should be happy because next I have NYC. I've got NYC below Montreal. I've got them on 2 points, and I've got Puebla on one.
Okay. I don't have the points laid out. So I kind of was just going off of vibes, like who I think is going to be like ranking them 6-1. So I've got Montreal at 6, Puebla at 5, Leon at 4, New York City at 3, Columbus at 2, Toluca at 1. I think Toluca and Columbus run the show against one, and yeah, I think Toluca beats NYC. They definitely beat Montreal. They probably tie Columbus. I think Columbus maybe ties Toluca, ties Leon, beats Puebla. New York City loses Toluca, tie Leon, beat Puebla, but lose on tiebreaker, and then things like that. Yeah, that makes sense to me. So I'll go with that. So repeat yours just without me interrupting you and yelling about that, and then I'll repeat mine just so the people can hear it.
So I've got Puebla at 6. I've got NYC at 5. Montreal at 4. Leon at 3. Columbus at 2. Toluca at 1.
Okay. And I've got Montreal at 6, Puebla at 5, Leon at 4, New York City at 3, Columbus at 2, Toluca at 1. All right. Let's move on then. Maybe a little less silly and we'll be dialed here because we're in Eastern 2 now. And this is important
Oh,
for you.
Eastern too. I'm dialed in now.
Well, it's
Call me
important for
dish
you.
soap because I'm dialed.
All right, I guess we're not going to stay focused. um, so tier 1 teams are Inter Miami and Pumas. Tier 2 teams are Orlando and I'm going to get this right, Necaxa. We spent 3 years trying to figure this out. I'm almost certain I've got it this time.
We'll try again next year.
And I cannot wait. I can't wait for the. We've always got like three people like, nope, you got it wrong again. It's like, no, I'm so sorry. Necaxa at as a tier 2 team, and tier 3 Atlanta United and Atlas. So let's start with the Inter Messi CF Flamingo SC, managed by Javier Mascherano. They were the best performing CONCACAF side at the Club World Cup, taking down Porto and nearly topping their group after almost beating Palmeiras before getting absolutely dog walked out of the tournament by PSG. They currently sit in fifth place in the East with 38 points from 11 wins, but they also have 3 games in hand thanks to the Club World Cup matches. We know the faces, we know the names, and now we need to see if the manager can let them fly and do their thing. They were winners of the first installment of this tournament in Messi's debut, and they will look to repeat that here in 2025. Talk to me about locations, talk to me about players.
So Miami, shocker. Don Garber scripting again. Is playing every game at home at Chase Stadium.
How
So
dare he?
seriously.
He should
So
move it to Hard
another
Rock Stadium like they always do for these big games.
I mean, you said it, not me. Yeah, so in terms of big signings, I mean, obviously we know who kind of the face of the team is. Doesn't count as a new signing anymore though, so cannot use him. I've gone for, I mean, there's a few names. So one that's a questionable one. Obviously Rodrigo De Paul just
if he
recently
if he gets
announced
here.
if he's going to be playing, obviously that would be a big signing for them in this tournament. I've got two more just in case that isn't the case. I've got Talasco Segovia,
Mhm.
and the other one for me is Tadeo Allende, who I think are going to be good impact players for them.
Yeah, you you haven't listened to my guest spot with Battered Herons yet. We did a guest spot for the Red Bull game this evening at the time of recording, and they just slandered Allende. He's got one thing: he runs and he runs fast and he goes straight and then he kicks the ball. He doesn't do much.
That
So
sounds like Jurgen Damm.
man, now you're going deep cutting references. I love it. Yeah, well, I think that's a good thing to know, and talking about somebody we should keep an eye on then.
Mine's kind of a questionable one. Again, it's going to depend on if he plays, but I've gone for Rodrigo de Paul. I think he will, if he plays, he will uncertainly be the. No, wait, I said that wrong. If he
I was about to
plays, he
say,
will certainly be.
uncertainly, are we sure?
He will certainly be the player to watch, even if Messi's on the team, just because it will be his first appearances with Miami. How does he mesh with the team? Where is he going to play? How is he going to play? So lots of question marks on that. So it'll be very interesting. Messi started off playing in Leagues Cup as well, so it'll be very interesting to see if he can kind of, maybe get himself off to a hot start the same way Messi did. Even if he's not, obviously he's not a Messi level player.
Yeah, yeah. I hope he gets here, honestly. When we had that conversation, you can go check that out before some of our other episodes. But I don't know if you've heard of this guy, Lionel Messi. He's been okay this year. He's got a few goals, got a few assists, and he might be good for him. I'm not sure how he can do against Liga MX, but you're supposed
I
to
mean, they'll
laugh and be
pocket
like,
him.
you're
They'll
supposed to
pocket
laugh
him.
and be like, ha 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 ha, that's so funny. Um, no, my
There
actual
you go.
pick is my actual pick is Noah Allen, an amazing and integral part to this team. He has been filling in as a left center back in a back three. He's just 21 years old, and he's risen to the occasion and been one of Miami's best defenders as of late. One of the things we talked about when we did our preview was that they have just been, it's been a different team without him in there, which is crazy to think. And I really hate that he's changed his nationality to Greek, so we won't get to see him for the men's national team. But I think he's going to be really, really big this tournament for locking down some of these better attacks that they're going up against.
I did not know he switched to Greece.
Yeah, I figured it out just the other day, which is again that tells you how on the radar he was for the USMNT, but still kind of sucks.
Yeah.
Pumas are up next. And what a group they have here. They're led by the second youngest manager, third youngest manager in the tournament, 37-year-old former Vancouver Whitecap player Efren Juarez is at the helm. Taking over in March of last year, he led them to a 10th place finish in the Clausura and is off to a pretty poor start this year at the bottom of the table. Granted, that's after one game, but we always take stock from one single game, so they might as well get relegated here. With a -3 goal differential, no goals for, the team has just completed the signing of Pedro Vite and is also home to Coco Carrasquilla. But the name that stands out most to the casual viewer and somebody that actually you're probably going to talk about it, so I won't even do it, but I will make my joke after. So, talking about locations and players.
So locations for Pumas, they're going to be playing in Orlando for their first two games. And then, of course, anytime you play Messi, you got to play Messi in Miami. So they will be ending that off with a trip to Chase Stadium in Miami. Big signings. Think you were probably alluding to this. Adalberto Carrasquilla coming over from Houston. I've also gone for Alex Padilla. He's a goalkeeper coming over from Bilbao. I think based on who they've run out there at the start of this season, I think he's got a shot to start for them. So it'd be very interesting to see if he makes it in time to be their goalkeeper for this tournament.
Those were not who I was talking about. The name that stands out most to the casual viewer is, of course, Aaron Ramsey, center mid who made his trade with Arsenal in the English Super League. Cricket,
I don't remember
cricket,
seeing his name on there, so that's why I'm
cricket,
double checking.
cricket.
Hold on. Hold.
Insert the meme of guy going to VAR.
Yeah, seriously.
After review,
I
it
don't
is
see
a
him on here. Like I don't see him on transfer markets transfers.
it's I mean, he's right there. I see him. Unless he said new arrival. Yeah, he's
Aaron Ramsey.
Aaron Ramsey from Cardiff.
I don't I'm not seeing him.
After review, it has it has been determined that Connor has an inability to utilize transfer market properly after
I'm look
5 years of this
I'm gonna
podcast.
share my I don't know. Maybe
Um,
they're just not counting him in yeah, I don't
maybe
know.
not. Anyways, he will be there. I don't know if he's going to be an important player, but tell me about the player that you're going to keep an eye on.
So I've gone for Carrasquilla coming over from Houston.
Mhm.
He was an absolute mainstay for Houston. He was a huge part of that team. And I think his loss is being felt in Houston. And, what's Houston's loss is Pumas's gain. So it would be very interesting to see, he might be able to, considering it's been recent, he might be able to use maybe some of the things he knows about the teams that he's gone up against in the past to, give his side an advantage here. Just kind of like general ideas of like the way that certain players play, the way that certain teams play. So very interesting to see like what kind of impact he'll have for Pumas here.
I mean, based on your predictions, what Houston's loss is also Houston's gain because you were going to predict them in what, third?
Who? Houston?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I did.
Oh yeah. How quickly we forget. I'm
I'm
going.
trying
I'm
to
going.
forget.
I'm going with the other MLS new signing, and that's Pedro Vite. Easily Vancouver's most influential attacker this year, with Ryan Gauld out being long term. I want to see how he integrates into this group with Coco Kataskisia and whatever Aaron Ramsey does, and how he's going to get utilized because the general consensus was not only was he most influential, he was also very underrated. Like how many times we talk about Pedro Vite being the guy? Not many. So it's going to be interesting to see how he can fit into this group, get on the ground running because that's what this tournament's going to be good for, especially for Liga MX sides. Is they're only a game into their season anyway, so this is almost like an extended preseason for them if they're trying to fit players in. So I'm interested to see how they utilize them. Nice. Well, let's chat then with the best team in the Southeast. Yeah, Orlando City. Such a strange and streaky team this team is because after a stretch of games where they started the year 12 unbeaten, they have just one win in their last five, and they sit in sixth place with 35 points from 9 wins and 8 draws. Longtime manager Oscar Pareja is going to have to dig deep to find some inspiration for them if they are going to move out of the first round. Tell me about locations. Tell me about players.
Wouldn't you know it, Orlando City benefiting from the Garber Bucks. If you're close enough to Miami, you get the secondary benefits. Orlando will be playing all of their games at home in Orlando. In terms of big signings, I've gone for Marco Pasalic here, who's had a very good impact for them so far this season. I've also gone for Eduardo Atuesta. Obviously, we know what he's capable of from his time in LAFC.
Yeah, yeah. I think those are some good ones there. But why don't we talk about players to watch? And maybe as we move forward, you don't even need to take a break. You don't even need to let me tell you to do things. I'll give you that freedom to tell me your player to watch when you're ready.
What a kind guy.
Listen, it's just what I do.
Seriously. I've gone for said Edward Atuesta. As I mentioned, we know what he's capable of from his time in LAFC. He's a great playmaking. I would assume he's still playing as a six, and I think he could really be a really important cog in this Orlando City machine in terms of kind of getting the play started, connecting the defense and the attack. Um, Obviously, there's a lot more like big time goal scoring, goal involved players like Pasalic and Ojeda, but I think Atuesta's impact may not necessarily hit the box score, but he could have a big impact on the field depending on how he plays.
Yeah, no, that's fair. And one of the things I thought you were going to go Alex Freeman personally because that's the easy one because we've talked about him 100 times. You didn't have to think about it. You could have just repeated what you said before and it would have counted.
Low hanging
Um,
fruit. I'm not
yeah,
doing that.
which is your thing. You love a low hanging piece of fruit, that's for sure. Um,
I'm short. What do you expect?
Yes, you are. Um, I went with Pasalic. I think 11 goals on the season. He's been an absolute unit. He's one of the best newcomers of the year, and he and Ojeda have been carrying this team. And I want to see what he can do going up against competition from other leagues that aren't just Atlanta twice and Atlanta again. I just it's easy to beat up on those sorts of teams. So interested to see how he does against some other teams. So
Guy's a comedian.
oh, just wait. Oh, just wait.
It's more like you're a clown.
Oh, you're so funny.
Thank
I'm
you.
gonna get this pronunciation right as we go to the next team. It's Necaxa. Necaxa. They are led by another relatively young manager in 39-year-old Fernando Gago, also Argentine, in case you're seeing a pattern here. They sit mid-table in the Apertura with one win from two games and finished a very nice Clausura season in fifth spot with 10 wins from 17 games. It will be interesting to see how they handle MLS competition, but they have a strong core and they will look to be expansive and clinical to build off of their 36 goals from the Clausura season. They are surprisingly the first club to this point that doesn't have an MLS link, at least that I could find.
Maybe you're not searching hard enough.
Why don't you then tell me about locations and transfers? So,
Yes. So Necaxa. will be playing in the greatest stadium in all of North America, Mercedes-Benz Stadium, to start things off. Then they will be going over to Chase Stadium for the Messi charity match. And then rounding things off, finishing in Orlando. So a nice little southern vacation for them, southern trip, bouncing around to a bunch of cities down there. In terms of big signings, I've gone for, this is going to be fun to pronounce, Diber Cambindo from Cruz Azul, Agustin Palavecino from River Plate, and I don't know how much the potential like summer signings are going to play or if they are going to play at all. I'm going to see if I could try to include one going forward for each of the teams. So I've gone for Tomas. I mean, I would assume Tomas Jacob. I mean, it's spelled Jacob, but I he's Argentinian, so I doubt it's Jacob from Newell's Old Boys.
That was
And
nice.
what?
No, your
Yeah.
pronunciations were great. It's one of my favorite parts about doing this sort of content is just all of that, everything, just chef's kiss.
Well, I'm glad you're getting a kick out of this.
I'm sure everybody else is too. Don't you worry. Yeah, my player to watch. They scored a ton last season, right? So I'm going to watch the goal scorers. Diber Cambindo that you mentioned, he dropped 11 of those goals in 930 minutes. That's a rate of 1 per 90 minutes. Actually, better than that. That is mental. That is insane. And MLS defenses, including a team we're about to talk about next, are going to have an absolute nightmare with him all tournament long. If you thought Brad's performance against Messi in the playoffs was going to be big, he's going to have to like triple that to do better against his Necaxa team. So yeah, that'll be fun.
Yeah, my player to watch, as you've mentioned, they're a high scoring team, but the reason they're not at the top of the table, they concede goals as well. They concede plenty of goals. So I've gone for their goalkeeper. I've gone for Ezekiel Unsain. I don't know. I'm just gonna start throwing around multiple pronunciations, and one of them will be right.
Oh,
So I've gone for the goalkeeper here, who was a monster over in Argentina, has phenomenal stats down there, and just hasn't really found his form with Necaxa yet. So I'm interested to see, similar situation to some of the other players we talked about before. Is this an opportunity for them to kind of find their footing and start to settle in?
yeah, yeah. It'd be good. Like I said, I remember when we did this for the first time. In the first, they were a bottom team. It was one of those like, yeah, they'll be there. We don't have to worry about them. They're going to be the bottom. They're three-team group. We move on. But it's interesting to see how they've kind of turned themselves around. They're top five team. They went to the playoffs, and I think they're gonna cause problems here. So that'll be exciting. Why are they going to cause problems? Because somebody messed up and put another MLS Next Pro team in here that we don't need to cover. But here we are anyway. Atlanta United has made their way into the League's Cup. Ronnie Dyla, he should be gone, but he isn't. And he takes the most expensive attack in MLS and turned them into 2019 Red Bull. Good job. I'm pretty sure Tom Barlow had more goals in 2019 than Almiron has this year. Don't fact check it. Just believe it. Go with the vibes. Anyways, they sit 13th out of 15 in the East, 12 points out of the playoffs, and they are in need of a miracle to make the playoffs. They have just 4 wins on the year and only 25 goals scored. That's like $1 million a goal or something like that for one player. It is really quite shocking for the money they spent on this team. But why don't you talk to me a little bit about them and how they're doing?
How they're doing? You're supposed to talk about how they're doing.
Oh, I did, but I just figured you have some retort or some
I
pushback
don't.
because
I wish I did, but I really don't. I kind of
yeah.
just have to deal with it.
All right, well then tell me location, tell me transfers, tell me players to watch.
Well, considering Don Garber hates us and hates Atlanta, we will not be playing all of our games in Atlanta. We will be playing our first in Mercedes-Benz Stadium, then going over to that sewer down in Orlando, before wrapping things up back in Atlanta again. In terms of big signings, Emmanuel Latelat, obviously, lots of money spent on him, and bringing back former superstar, probably still a star for the team, even if he hasn't necessarily been putting up star numbers. Miguel Almiron is back with Atlanta. My player to watch, I've gone for that similar theme again. I've gone for Latte Loth. Obviously, the price tag is very big on him and has not quite lived up to that price tag yet. Granted, it is still early days. Some of that I think is probably a lack of service, but it will be interesting to see if maybe this is an opportunity for him to kind of get himself going, hit that reset button, and find some form and maybe potentially salvage something from this season.
Yep, and I'm on the same boat with why I've picked my player. It's for the same reason. Alexei Miranchuk, it's time for you to figure this stuff out, man. You have been, what was it? Did you pay eight figures for him? Did you get him for 10 mil plus? I think so, right?
Yes, it
Yeah.
was, I believe, 10 million or
Yeah,
11, something like that.
and you took him from a Europa League winning side in Atalanta, not Atlanta, Atalanta. He's shown up and he's gotten you just this year alone six goal contributions in 22 games. That's abysmal for the price. So hopefully for Atlanta, he can take this opportunity, figure it out, get some form, and help out during the last push to this playoff so they want any chance of making it because they're not going to do it with $10 million walking around the pitch. It's been really, really disappointing for him, and I think he needs to step up. All right, well then it's Atlas time. Not the map, not the book of maps, the team. Led by a familiar face to a certain team in this group. It's Gonzalo Pineda back at the helm of Atlas, taking on his former club in Atlanta United. It should make for a very fun matchup. The last Clausura, they were in 14th out of which is four wins and seven draws, scoring only 25 times. This season, they won their first game 3-2 versus Puebla, so they are flying, right? Gonzalo's at the wheel. This is what it's about. Good hot start. We love to see it. They're home to former MLS names such as Mauro Manotas and Matias Kokaro. Talk to me about how excited you are to see Gonzalo Pineda again. Talk to me about their locations, their transfers, and players to watch.
So I'm just gonna do the things that I was signed up to do. I have no other comments to say, nothing else, none at all. But yeah, so Atlas is going to be playing in Miami to start things off, then heading over to Orlando, and finally finishing their way up in Atlanta. In terms of big signings, I have gone for, here we go again, fun pronunciations. This one might be the worst of them all. Uros Djordjevic, probably the closest I can get to that, coming in from Sporting Gijon. I don't know why I made that sound French. There's another player also coming over from the same club in Robert Pierre. Again, sounds very French. Spanish center back coming in during the summer, so it'll be interesting to see if he has any impact there. In terms of players to watch, I've gone for Djurdjevic himself. I think he's had a good impact on this team from a goal scoring perspective. Looks to be their main goal scoring option, as much as like a couple of other players have contributed. He had most goals last year in 12, and I think he's going to be the guy that's going to be kind of that difference maker for them again this tournament in terms of who they're going to look for to score goals. A few people have scored thus far, as you mentioned, they scored three in their first game. Nobody scoring more than one, so I think that's probably a promising sign for them if they can get Djordjevic going. Then I think having that alongside other players who are scoring can be their route to potentially getting out of their group.
Yeah, no, I think it's fair. I'm kind of going in that same boat. I'm going with Diego Gonzalez, a wide player they brought in on loan from Lazio. He's already provided two assists in that first game, so I'm interested to see if that quality holds up and how MLS defenses deal with him, right? Because I'm always thinking MLS focused, right? And defense is not really our strong suit, so I'd be really interested to see if he's got any bit about him, how they're going to handle him. All right, well, it's predictions time. Give me six to move your players around. I don't care about points or anything. Just give me 6-1, and we'll go from there.
So six, I've got Atlas. Five, I've got Necaxa. Four, I've got Atlanta. Three, I've got Pumas. Two, I've got Orlando, and one, I've got Miami.
Interesting. At six, I've got Atlanta United. Shocker.
Hater.
At five, I've got Atlas. At four, I've got Pumas. At three, I've got Necaxa. At two, I've got Orlando City. At one, I've got Miami. I think that this is going to be a very heavy MLS side that is going to run this group, and I think Necaxa is going to be the best of the Liga MX sides. I'm really excited to watch them play. All right, then, and let's just finish up here with Eastern 3. Tier 1 teams, Monterey and FC Cincinnati. Tier 2 teams, Chivas and Charlotte. And Tier 3 teams, Red Bull, the MLS Cup finalist in Tier 3, and FC Juarez. I think this is going to be a great group, and I think there are a lot of really interesting matchups that are going to happen here. But let's start with Liga MX Giants Monterrey. They're the other team to get out of their Club World Cup group before losing to Dortmund. These guys are the real deal. They're most recently the winners of the 2021 CONCACAF Champions League. They've always been super competitive, not only in Liga MX, but in all CONCACAF competitions. Led by another familiar face to MLS fans, Dome Torrent is here, formerly of New York City. In Las Clausura, they finished seventh with 8 wins and 32 goals for. And after 2 games so far, they have 1 win. This is a star-studded group that only has 2 MLS connections. Former LAFC reserve Tony Leone, and he who was robbed of a Defensive Player of the Year award, Carlos Salcedo. That's what the streets are saying. I'm just reading off of the message boards
Nice,
here.
nice to meet you, Streets. Is that what they call you
um,
now?
they've also got tons of international talent, completely glossing over your shot. Tons of international talent. Sergio Canales, Oliver Torres, Lucas Ocampos, and Sergio Ramos, just to name a few. Give me an idea of where they're playing games and some of the moves that they've made already.
All right. Well, I mean, you stole half the moves already because you
No, I
decided
did.
you were going to list off a bunch of
Well,
people.
you took shots at me. I was making sure I took them back at you.
You're just doing my move, jumping ahead in the script. But Monterrey is going to be playing their first 2 games in Cincinnati at TQL Stadium and rounding things out in Bank of America Stadium for Charlotte. And then, as Andrew mentioned, gracefully, thank you very much. Some of their big signings, Oliver Torres, I believe, joined maybe summer of last year. I can't recall if he made it in time for Leagues Cup, but I'm counting him anyway. And then the biggest name I would say on the entire team, Sergio Ramos, just joined up with them recently. Obviously aged, but brings a ton of pedigree with him. I will just jump right into my player to watch here. I've gone for Sergio Canales. I think he is the main cog in this team in terms of playmaking and goal scoring. He was their highest goal scorer, I believe, last season. Someone correct me if I'm wrong. Um, so like he's going to be the guy to keep your eye on, despite a lot of other big names in this team, as we've discussed already. So very interested to see what he is able to do, especially with so much talent, as you mentioned, around him.
Yeah. I think there are tons of names you can pick, big names who are going to make big impacts. To me, and I think this guy might have been on my list last year. German Berterame, 7 goals last Clausura to lead the team, was once linked with a massive $15 million move to, I believe, Portland before they got Jonathan Rodriguez. It never materialized, and I think usually the reason why I bring up these sorts of players that almost came here but didn't is because they usually come back to hurt us in some way, right? These guys are like, oh yeah, we almost got here, and oh, we should have brought him here because he just dropped four on our head. Like this time it'll probably be in Leagues Cup, but yeah, I'm keeping an eye on him because yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see how he gets on with all of this talent around him, right? All right, well, that leaves us then to the other tier one team in FC Cincinnati, the high flying FC Cincinnati, because these guys are having fun. Currently second in the Supporter Shield standings and in the Eastern Conference, 5 wins in their last six, one of the best attacks in the league. And Pat Noonan's side have 14 wins in 23 games, good for 45 points and 1 point off the Shield race. But the question is, can they keep this going against their Liga MX sides? Talk to me about where they're playing games and if they've made any big moves we need to know about.
Yeah, so since he's going to be playing all of their games at home in TQL Stadium, going to be a big boost for them. A couple of the big signings from this most recent winter transfer window. Big time striker Kevin Denke or Denke has joined them, has been off to a pretty good start with them. And then probably the biggest of them all, bringing in Evander over from Portland. He has been phenomenal for them, MVP type of run, if it wasn't for that Missy guy. And then my player to watch for them, despite all of the big names in there and a lot of fun attacking talent, I'm going goalkeeper love here. I'm going for Celentano here because I feel like a couple of the guys that are around him in similar status of like a little bit younger, up and coming, maybe starting to get their name into the USMNT pool, he's kind of fallen behind a little bit, I feel like. And not that necessarily he doesn't have the talent to get there. I feel like he does. Maybe this is an opportunity for him to start to kind of put his name in the pool. You know, you see guys like Freese. Freese just came in for the Gold Cup, got starts, and now all of a sudden we're talking about him possibly getting a spot on the World Cup roster. You know, Patrick Schulte's had games with them. I'd like to see Celentano take that next step and put his name more often into the USMNT pool.
I love it. I love it. You know, I love little bit of goalkeeper love, especially against the attack that you're going to see. You've got other teams that we're going to talk about here in a minute, right? Red Bull attack is firing on all cylinders, so that's obviously going to be a problem for him. Did my depression get hidden there? Could you tell I was lying?
I mean, you're a little more mellow than you normally are, so I feel like that's the giveaway.
Oh man, for me, I'm going with the obvious one. Kai Kamara, new signing. Got to make sure that we you know, keep him around. I'm just kidding. I went between Denke or Evander. I think you got one in the Golden Boot race, the other is an MVP conversation. Like they're all firing on all cylinders. You're going to need to continue to do that to go deep in this tournament. I'll say Evander because he's done it really really well across MLS level, but hasn't yet tested himself thoroughly with this team anywhere else. So it'll be interesting to see what he does with this group. But we'll move then on to Chivas Guadalajara, not Chivas USA, friends. I know everybody sees the badge and it's the first thing they think of, but it's not. It's a team in Mexico, crazy enough. Led by Gabriel Milito, the brother of the famed Diego Milito. You don't know who that is, but you know,
Nope.
people who know ball, they know.
Well, that's not me.
Yeah, I know that. Chivas are entering this tournament with an experienced squad, but they need results. They currently sit 13th in the table, mainly because they haven't played yet at the time of recording. They missed the playoffs last year. They finished 11th with just 5 wins and 18 goals scored. They are littered with former MLS connections. I'm just going to go through them very quickly. A front line, dangerous as ever, with Alan Polito and Chicharito at a combined age of 71 years old. Fidel Barajas in there, Efren Alvarez, Kate Cowell, Daniel Aguirre, Richie Ledesma, Miguel Tapias. I mean, just MLS experience at the wazoo. Let's see if it helps him be successful against MLS talent in the Leagues Cup. Talk to me about locations. Talk to me about transfers.
Sure. So Chivas is going to be bouncing around a little bit here. They're starting things off with the illustrious, as we've talked about, Sports Illustrated Stadium. Many times we've talked about this. A lot of games going on over there. It's honestly, I'm still working on not calling it Rebel Arena because that's how you've referred to it for like the last 4 years. It's so hard to call it that. Um, Next, after that, bouncing down over to Charlotte to play in Bank of America Stadium and rounding things off in TQL Stadium in Cincinnati. So a little bit of travel for them on this Leagues Cup route. And then some of the players you had talked about a little bit already. Alan Pulido was one that I called out coming over from SKC. Had a lot of injury issues when he was over in MLS, but when he was healthy, had flashes of some serious DP level talent. So very interested to see what he can do for them. I've also called out Luis Romo coming over from Cruz Azul. I think he's going to be a crucial piece for them as well. My player to watch, I've gone a little bit for the homer pick here, but I've gone for Cade Cowell because I feel like with Chivas, his name kind of pops up occasionally for stuff that he's doing over there, and it feels like he's a very streaky player. I mean, Chivas fans could probably correct it better, but it feels like he just goes on sprees of like braces and like multiple goal contributions in a game, and then he goes quiet for other games. So I think a player like that is definitely the most dangerous in a cup competition because that's kind of all it takes is one big game from Cade Cowell, and all of a sudden you get a win against a team that you normally shouldn't have beaten, and you're looking at getting yourself into the next round. So a player like Cade can be a huge difference maker for them.
Yeah, I was going to talk about him as a an option, right? With Pochettino not really giving him a sniff and having this maybe as something there to elevate him. But over 11 appearances in the Clausura last season. He only played 386 minutes. He started 3 games and he had a bunch of like 1 minute, 4 minute, 20-minute cameos. He only went the full 91. So it just seems like he's not quite part of the plan at the moment. And I'd be interested to see if he can pick that up and change something here. but he could use this Leagues Cup as a an improvement for him. So we'll see how that goes. For me, it's going to be Gilberto Sepulveda. I practiced that and I messed it up. He's a center back, and with Chivas struggling to score goals, they are going to need to be really defensively sound. It will be on their mainstay center back to hold it down and give them the best chance of success. So he's going to be my player to watch for a big performance. Let's go south then to Charlotte FC. And just to throw back to those of you who have been listening for a while, when we did our predictions at the beginning of the year and we said Charlotte FC are going to win the East, what we meant was the Eastern third pot of the Leagues Cup, not the Eastern Conference. Of course, that would just be silly. But here they have a good chance of being the top of this pot, which is what we were talking about. Um,
Of course.
my word, have they been disappointing this year? They had all the talent they could want, returning the best defense in the league, having this, bringing back Pep Biel on a non-DP contract, Wilfred Zaha, Pat Ogyman, who just moved but was supposed to be kind of balling out. They've shipped 37 goals in 23 matches. They're in ninth place right now, 3 points saved from the playoffs, and on 10 wins in 23 matches. Dean Smith's got to figure out the back line and if he's going to actually make a run, not only in the Leagues Cup, but also in the playoffs race and the playoffs, he's going to have to figure out what is going wrong there and how to fix it. Spoiler alert, playing a high line with 37-year-old Tim Ream might be one of your issues, but we move. Talk to me about locations. Talk to me about transfers.
In fairness to him, he hasn't had Tim Ream for a few games during that stretch in the
And
Gold
they,
Cup.
they were
So who
probably
knows?
better
Maybe
then than they did with him.
it could be. So Charlotte is another one of those teams where they're going to be playing all of their games at home. So Bank of America Stadium is their place to play for all three Phase 1 matches. In terms of big signings, no bigger name than Wilfred Zaha, a big time addition for them and for the league. He's kind of my main one to call out here. I think there's a lot of players that have stepped up this year, but are not necessarily new. Guys like Pep Biel, who happens to be my player to watch because he has been on a tear this season. He is probably not I mean, I think there's only one man that's honestly the favorite for MVP right now. But if we're talking about everybody outside of Messi, he is certainly making a strong case for himself in that MVP race. I think the way he's going right now, he's at the very least a finalist, which is a massive step up for him. He is going to be crucial for them getting results in this tournament. He's going to have to be big time for them, especially with Ajimang out the door.
Yeah, and speaking of Ajiman out the door, my player to watch is his replacement, Idan Toklamadi. He's my player to watch because once Ajiman left, this is now his line to lead, right? He's been really solid in the cameos with Pat or in replacement of Pat, but now that he's not there, it's all up to him to lead the attack. And with their defense being as leaky as we, have talked about it being, he's going to need to step up and balance that out because he's got Pep Biel creating for him. He's got Zaha on the outside. The other wide player in terms of being Lyle Abada or Kerwin Vargas or whoever is also very capable. He needs to step up and score goals, and if he can't, they're going to be in trouble, and this is going to be a tough group for them. All right, let's move on then. I mean, I don't really know why we're doing previews, considering we already know who's winning this entire tournament anyway, and it is the mighty mighty New York Red Bulls.
You
So
sure about that? You sure about
I
that?
am,
I
I
have a
am.
feeling you're in for a tough one tomorrow night.
I hate you. Um, This is tough. Sandro Schwartz, second year in charge, making it all the way to MLS Cup final, has made this one of the most confusing teams in the league. In moments, they are brilliant, they score for fun, and they're defensively solid. Then we'll go 3 games without having more than one shot on target and leak goals like we are, a high school team. There is no in between. There's no average Red Bull team. You're either really good or you're really not. And this is an average run of form that has you exactly where you would think we'd be. Right smack in the middle of the Eastern Conference table, 33 points, 9 wins, 6 draws, eighth place right now. They will lean heavily on Eric Maxim Choupo-Moting and Emil Forsberg to provide solid attacking output and get them to the top. I'm assuming they've got a couple of games at that place everybody else is playing at. But tell me about that and maybe some of the new players they brought in.
Sure thing. So, New York Red Bulls, surprisingly, despite all of the games that are being played at Sports Illustrated Stadium, are not playing all of their games there. They will be playing their first game at said Sports Illustrated Stadium, followed by a trip to TQL Stadium in Cincinnati, and ending things off back in Sports Illustrated Stadium. So a little bit of travel for them. Not too bad though. Big signings. I've called out here Eric Choupo-Moting. Um, Obviously, I think a very well-known name. Kind of had, I mean, me personally, kind of had low expectations for him, but he's done a very solid job for them so far this season. So he'll definitely be one to watch. But he is not my player to watch. That would be the maestro Emil Forsberg. Kind of an easy pick, I get that, but I do think he's going to be crucial. I think a player of Forsberg's style and place in this team is going to be so crucial for their success. I understand that they have to solidify things defensively as well, but if there's one thing I think a Red Bull team can do, if they needed it, is to solidify themselves defensively, and that kind of leaves the door open for Forsberg to be that difference maker and get them. It doesn't have to be pretty, just get them the wins that they need to move on.
Yeah, I mean, you can very easily tell when Red Bull are playing well and when they're not playing well, and that's based on how many times Emil Forsberg is touching the ball. If they play him out of the game, Red Bull can't create much, um, and we end up looking like like we don't want to be there, or we aren't able to be there technically. And then when he is on the ball, he's creating, he's picking up passes that makes us look really good, and it brings us to another level. My player to watch actually is going to be Ronald Doncourt. He was my player to watch in our preseason one to watch kind of series, but he was so good against New England, and right now he is kind of the hot hand after Felipe Carballo left. He progresses the ball better than any one of the center mids that we have on roster right now, both on the dribble and with the pass. He had 3 assists in that New England game as a 6'8" player. I think he's earned himself a starting role, and I think that's going to need to continue to show in Leagues Cup if they want any chance of advancing out. He is still super young, very, very, like a lot of players on our team. He's young, he's raw, he's athletic, and he's working himself up. But I mean, he's looked really good in the last couple of appearances he's made. It's time to give him a shot. And finally, let's chat about FC Juarez, who, to my understanding, are now under the guidance of the youngest manager in the league, 33-year-old Martin Verini from Uruguay. Just a reminder, that is 5 years away, Connor. 5 years away until we have to manage a team. Are you ready?
Yeah, more like you're ready. You're the one that's taking the classes for it.
Yeah, I know. Um, don't remind me. um, He takes charge trying to make a lot out of a little, but to be fair, he's done pretty well. Last Clausura, they finished in ninth to make the playoffs with 6 wins from 17, which is good for 24 points. They currently sit 11th after drawing Cruz Azul in their only game to date. They were once the bottom feeders of Liga MX. I remember when we used to do these old ones that there was kind of like a Juarez existed and we move on, but they've turned it around and are looking to make a splash at League's Cup. MLS links, best designated player in MLS history, Jairo Torres. He's here. Comeback player of the year, snub, Rodolfo Pizarro, also here. Jonathan Gonzalez and Jesus Murillo make up a quartet. Yeah, quartet of MLS linked players. Talk to me about location. Talk to me about transfers.
Sure. So Juarez is going to be another one of those teams that is bouncing around a bit here. We're starting off at Bank of America Stadium in Charlotte, followed by a trip to Cincinnati and TQL Stadium, and then, of course, finishing at everybody's favorite Sports Illustrated Stadium, home of the New York Red Bulls. In terms of big signings for Juarez, I've gone for Guilherme Carvalho, coming over from, not even going to try to pronounce it, Brazil, I'm just going to say. And then the other one, I don't believe he's played yet. This is the guy I was double checking because I'm not 100% sure. I didn't see his name there. Doesn't look like he's been sold, so somebody could correct me if I'm wrong. I've gone for Jesus Murillo coming over from LAFC. I saw his name, I think maybe last year. I didn't see him on the sold list, so I'm sticking with that until I hear otherwise. Um, but my player to watch, a name you mentioned before, not necessarily new. I think he was here previously. I've gone for Rodolfo Pizarro. I obviously had a lot of hype coming in. He was the first, I don't know if I want to say the first big signing for Miami because Higuain and Matuidi are big names, but Pizarro was supposed to be like the top dog. That next like Miguel Almiron to come in and really like take off. And maybe even get a move to Europe. I know he probably wasn't as young as those guys were, but a lot of hype around him coming into Miami did not exactly work out. He has found his way back into Mexico, and as of right now, is not starting in. Doesn't look like he has started yet for Juarez. However, will be very interesting. It seems like he's still being involved in some way, shape, or form. Will be interesting to see what kind of role he plays because I feel like there's talent there. I think he had the hype to begin with because there was talent shown from him. I think it's still there. Will be interesting to see if maybe this is an opportunity for him to kind of like work his way into the team more solidly.
Yeah, listen, Rodolfo Pizarro was due for a breakout comeback player of the year at Miami, and then I think Don Garber heard our show about that and said, "Well, we can't let him be right," so they shipped him back to Mexico. Made sure I looked silly. The world against the greatest, you know. So it's a life I have to live. I didn't choose it; it chose me. But we move. We're gonna end this episode with some goalkeeper love. Sebastian Hirado, a very interesting career path for him. Recently joined up from Cruz Azul, but before his transfer to Juarez, he was loaned out to Pachuca for the Club World Cup because I think there was a rule that all the Club World Cup teams needed three goalkeepers on their roster. So instead of signing one, they just loaned him for a week to play in the tournament. He made an appearance in the 2-0 loss to Al Hilal because Pachuca failed to pick up any points in that group. And then he went back and now is with Juarez. He's got great experience and in a group with so much attacking talent, right? We talked about it with Charlotte and FCC and Monterrey and even Red Bull to an extent. Um, he's going to need to come up big if they want any chance of being successful. He's going to have to step up and do a good job. So keep an eye on him to save Juarez here. All right, let's finish then with predictions. Once again, we're going to go 6-1. Give me what you got.
All right. For me, I've got Juarez at 6. I have got Charlotte at 5. I've got Chivas at 4. I've got Red Bull at 3, Cincinnati at 2, and Monterrey at 1.
Oh, you're too kind. You're way too kind.
Can I
I
say I
think
like my
this is,
co-host?
yeah, that's a lie. I think we are looking at this being a very Liga MX heavy success group. I think that the MLS sides defensively are a bit weaker, and the Liga MX sides attacking are going to expose them pretty well. So I've got Red Bull at 6. I've got Charlotte at 5. I've got Juarez at 4. Chivas at 3. FC Cincinnati at 2. And Monterrey at 1. But that'll do it for the Eastern Conference preview. If you enjoyed it, make sure you're subscribing wherever you get your podcast and on social media so you know when our Western Conference one goes live on Wednesday. So be sure to be around for that. If you are looking for teams from the Western groups, we are covering those on Wednesday. So make sure you're there. Follow us on all the social media so you can interact with us and share your thoughts on how these standings are going to work out. And we will see you next time on the next episode of the Designated Players and MLS Podcast. See ya.